Alright, so now I am going to explain talents. I am not going to go through and explain every single talent point. I am only going to explain some of the major ones and some of the major talents that have changed since the way they used to be. So the first one is the way that Shatter works now. I think it used to give a static 50% extra crit versus frozen targets, and now it just multiplies your critical strike chance against frozen targets by 3, so it's a new type of change, and that is why mages are stacking crit right now. So the next pretty cool talent is improved Cone of Cold. It freezes the target for 4 seconds when you use it, so it's basically just an extra Nova, which we really don't need, to be honest. So it's a really good talent, and make sure you get that. The next thing that changed a lot was Fingers of Frost. This used to affect every spell, I believe, that was Frost, and now it only affects Ice Lance and Deep Freeze. So you want to make sure you keep in mind that when you have Fingers of Frost procs, casting a Frostbolt is not going to make that Frostbolt have increased chance to crit, so it only affects Ice Lance and Deep Freeze. So the next talent point I just want to point out real quick is Enduring Winter. I put a point in here because I didn't really know where else to put the talent point. You don't really need to have a talent point in here. Mages have 0 mana problems, so this talent point is kind of unnecessary, but I put it in there for a filler. So next, a quick thing on Reactive Barrier. Never get this talent point or any talent points into here. It's an awful talent to ever have, so just don't get it. There's no time where you'd ever want to waste talent points and put them into here. Next, Frostfire Orb. Some people think that this is good to get, and first of all I want to say that Frostfire Orb, if you put 2 talent points into this, it makes your Frostfire Orb give you Fingers of Frost procs, which that is really good when it's giving you those procs. But the reason that me and some other people don't put talent points into here is because Frostfire Orb is kind of unreliable. It kind of despawns sometimes. People can just run away from it. It's a very buggy spell, and they kind of just need to fix it and make it follow someone and not randomly despawn and stuff, and then this would be a lot more worth it to get. But the way it is right now, it's not really worth 2 talent points in my opinion. If you do get the talent points into here, it's not a bad thing necessarily, it's just kind of a personal preference thing, so that's why I don't get talent points into here. It's just too unreliable of a spell. So next, just put some talent points into Fire. These 2 are the best 2 choices, and you want to make sure you put 2 points in Impact. Impact's pretty overpowered. It procs a lot, and what it does is makes your next Fire Blast stun the target for 2 seconds. So you also want to make sure that when you get Impact, you make a macro to Impact stun your focus target, because it's basically just like another interrupt, so it's a really good talent to have. And I also put a talent point into Blazing Speed, which if you want to get Frostfire Orb talent, you can take a talent point out of Blazing Speed, and you can take a talent point out of Enduring Winter and put it into Frostfire Orb. Like I said, it's all preference, so you can do that if you want. And then you want to make sure that you put 2 points into Improved Counterspell for obvious reasons. It's obviously pretty needed for Counterspell, so that's it for talents, and yeah. Alright, as far as glyphs go, you want to use Glyph of Frostbolt, Frostfire, and Ice Lance for your 3 prime glyphs. There's pretty much nothing else that's even remotely viable at all, so make sure that you use those 3. Major glyphs, you want to use Polymorph, Evocation, and I suggest using Icy Veins. Some people use Ice Barrier, which right now the glyph only adds like an extra 1k absorb to the shield, so 1k damage out of your 110k health pool is pretty useless, so I would say use Icy Veins. And you can also use Blink. if you want, but I think Icy Veins is the best right now, so do that. And your minor glyphs can obviously be whatever your little heart desires. So that's all for glyphs. Alright, now on to gear. The first thing you want to make sure you have is 240 spell pen, I believe. And I think stat-wise, the best way to get that is to get one of the spell pen pieces, which is either the cloak or neck, and then get 150 spell pen gem. I think it's better stat-wise to not get the cloak enchant. So get that, and also you want to make sure that you have 4% hit. After that, you basically want to use all the PvP pieces, except for maybe 1 or 2 pieces if you have really good PvE gear. But right now, Resilience is an amazing stat, and mages pretty much get trained in every game, so the more Resil you have, the better. So make sure you get a lot. Don't go out of your way to gem it, but just make sure that you use somewhere over 3k Resil, at least. So the main stat that you want to focus on after you get the 240 spell pen and 4% hit is critical strike chance. It's pretty much the best stat that we can get right now. I would suggest reforging all of your haste and mastery into crit in any piece that you can. Haste and mastery are still really good stats, but right now crit's just a little bit better, so it's worth it to reforge out of those stats. And for gemming, you want to try to put 40 crit rating in all of the yellow sockets, and 20 intellect and 20 crit rating in all of the red sockets. Basically, you're trying to get as much crit as possible, so do that. Meta gem. Right now, until the patch comes, I am using the Spell Reflect Meta gem, because the one that gives critical strike damage bonus has a requirement that's not really good for us. So until the patch, I would suggest using the Spell Reflect Meta. Alright, so that's just a basic overview of what you can do to be prepared for the arena. And also now I will give a couple little tips that some people might not know.
In a bar in San Francisco, we are dancing in the night, and her ruby lips are saying, love me right now.